So I'd go to a party that I'd been invited to, and they'd say, "What do you do?" And I'd say, "Well, I'm at the Electric Power Research Institute in Renewable." "Oh, that's great. Have a drink." If I said, "I'm at the Electric Power Research Institute in Nuclear," I had an argument on my hands, not a drink. You know?
I think when I heard nuclear, I was like, oh, bombs, right? Like, I didn't even know it was used for energy production. Like, how sad is that? I only knew that we had a nuclear plant here 7 years ago.
Nuclear sounds scary. I mean, just the word evokes some scary images for a lot of people. And Heather and I mean, it was the same for us. I grew up being afraid of nuclear, mostly because I didn't know a lot about it. And I think that's pretty common.
And I gave this speech in February of 2011, in which I kind of basically came out and very publicly for the first time really said the environmental movement has got to seriously rethink its views about nuclear energy. And then like 3 weeks later, the Fukushima accident happened.
Well, Fukushima was particularly impactful for me when I was working at Diablo Canyon in the control room during those events. It's this hugely scary event and a lot of misinformation in the media, and it's hard to really make sense of still saying yes to nuclear.
I would have been anti-nuclear. If I was in like the 70s and 80s, like I would have been protesting Diablo Canyon with my current status before I learned about nuclear. They're gonna blow up like bombs, like it's radiation. Look at what happened at like 3 Mile Island. I would have been out there with Jane Fonda.
Actually, about a decade ago, we were poised for a lot of new nuclear in the US. LPO actually had over $100 billion in applications for new nuclear plants. But I think two things happened. One is the price of natural gas fell, and then finally I think folks took the wrong lessons away from Fukushima.
You know, the thing that happens after Fukushima is, Japan shuts down its nuclear fleet. The thing that happens after Fukushima also is that you get a bunch of these nuclear plant closures, and the things that all of the pro-nuclear environmental advocates are saying are going to happen, which is that emissions are going to go up, happen.
Come on, just 5 or 6 years ago, we were talking about closing plants, right? We were talking about the industry declining. And so to have the conversation that we're having today, what's also remarkable about it is just a few short years ago, the picture was so very different.
When New York shut down nuclear reactors, almost all that capacity was replaced with natural gas, and the emissions went up. So I think people are beginning to realize the amount of value that nuclear provides to the grid.
And the other aspect was the fact that we actually did try the 100% renewable model, and we realized it didn't work. So there's a little bit of experience feedback. But those two were actually not enough.
I think we clearly can overcome this. I mean, we did back in the 70s build out a significant number of plants. We were putting out 10 plants a year. So it's definitely something we can do.
Nobody's even out talking about nuclear energy in public. Like, there's no events, you're not really having clubs, like there wasn't like a real public social gathering conversation.
What changed radically, and hopefully thanks to people like us, is the fact that industry took pride again in what it was doing, enough that it thought it okay to communicate it to the outside.
We just wanted to be unabashedly pro-nuclear. So we did marches, we made homemade signs, our kids came along with us. I mean, that's another thing that you didn't see, especially at that time. Families, women, children saying they wanted nuclear energy. It was such a novel concept. People couldn't believe that people like us even existed.
Giving dirty cash, NRDC. No receiving dirty cash, NRDC.
So when we started in 2018, we're like, let's just do an event. It's gonna be really fun. Dozens of organizations that came together to create this nuclear pride, which is now Stand Up evolved into. We're like, let's talk about radiation. Let's talk about nuclear. Let's sing. Let's make it colorful.
And then the idea came, wait a minute, are you kidding me? These are carbon-free workhorses, these nuclear energy plants. Why are we closing these plants down?
We weren't meeting our climate goals, or we're not on track to meet them. And then emissions are still increasing. Energy crisis happened. I think that's what really switched for a lot of countries. Like, it wasn't this, it was energy reliability.
Even the deep greens, who really made it an article of faith to shut nuclear, have realized that it produces a whole lot of zero carbon or very low carbon electricity, and it's very difficult to replace. So the pressure to shut nuclear power stations has essentially evaporated, and that has happened because of climate change.
When nuclear capacity is shut down, it's not replaced by renewables, it's replaced by natural gas. And so I think that helps to underscore that nuclear is not in a competitive position against renewables. We need huge amounts of renewables and we need huge amounts of nuclear. And so it's not a zero-sum game. And so I think that some of what Germany and other countries have gone through, same in the US as well.
Unfortunately, for many decades, in many of those countries, we kind of decided that nuclear was not a priority. So I think that we did not pay attention to our capabilities, our supply chains, our workforces. So now we are kind of facing a little bit of an uphill to catch up.
As our country makes the transition from fossil to whatever's next in order to meet climate goals, you simply can't do it with just wind, just solar, just batteries.
Nuclear is right now our largest source of clean energy. There's a strong recognition that nuclear energy is really needed to meet the climate goals that we've established, that we really can't completely decarbonize the electricity sector or go net zero by 2050 without nuclear playing a significant role.
Oh, I think climate change is a big part of this, right? Because that's really the driver for the decarbonization, right? Why do you want to be carbon free? Well, because there's the idea that we want to do what we can to mitigate the effects of climate change. And so do things now, invest now for the long term.
In much the same way that we had to stop wasting time debating if climate change is real, we've got to stop debating if nuclear is part of the solution. It absolutely is.
Now the conversation around nuclear energy has expanded beyond just climate, where it's still incredibly important, but it's stepped into this broader space of energy security and energy costs, where nuclear can play a very important role in meeting those energy security aims.
Lots of reasons you want energy security, but it has really been demonstrated by the unfortunate war of Russia on Ukraine, how important it is where you get your energy from and who you get your energy from.
This is happening as the world is reawakening to the importance of energy security and the need to have firm, reliable, clean energy that you're producing domestically.
There's mothers for nuclear out there, and just by having that name and by existing and talking about being supportive of nuclear energy, that was a big deal. Now it's not quite so much of a big deal anymore. Lots of people are supportive of nuclear energy. We want to build more. So now we have to shift to how do we do that? How do we do it well, like Kristen said, with excellence?
I think the other big thing that's changed is the completion of Vogtle Units 3 and 4.
Good morning. My name's John Williams, and on behalf of the more than 35,000 workers that built Vogtle 3 and 4, it is my pleasure to welcome you to the country's largest clean energy generating plant.
It's an incredible accomplishment, what Southern Company and Georgia Power and their partners have been able to do. It's a multi-generational asset that's going to provide that clean, firm power for 80 years and is making Georgia a destination for manufacturers and other customers who want that clean, firm capacity.
Looking at it today, everybody thinks it's a wonderful thing, and we are glad we're on the other side of it. But it was difficult. It was tough to finish this.
I also think that Vogtle has provided an incredible set of lessons around the importance of, for instance, completing the design before construction, going through a constructability review.
We've seen Vogel's 4th unit come online in 2024. We just had Terra Power, an advanced reactor company, they had their groundbreaking to begin construction of their facility. So we are seeing progress in this space and moving in the right direction.
It's a very expensive thing to build, but then it's a big piece of low carbon infrastructure that generates enormous amounts of electricity for decades and decades and decades.
And I commend Southern Company, our unions, our commission, our state, our chamber, our legislature, so many people that stayed the course when other states near us canceled their projects and left it resting until Jesus comes. We finished this project and we made it work, and I'm really proud of everybody.
To reach our goal of getting to net zero by 2050, we have to at least triple our current nuclear capacity in this country. That means we've got to add 200 more gigawatts by 2050. Okay, 2 down, 198 to go.
Okay, guys, like you just finished Vogtle. No other utilities have taken up the big nuclear reactors yet. There's talks, and I think it's a game of chicken. Like, who's gonna say it first?
And now you have the Biden administration that literally saying we need nuclear, we need to build another 200 large nuclear plants like Vogtle to hit our climate goals.
This is a mindset change that the nuclear industry needs to have, understanding that it could have a very different set of customers in the future.
Beginning this project, data centers, Bitcoin mining, it really wasn't that big a deal. But now with ChatGPT, all that AI is doing, we've got a tremendous load coming, and we've got to get ready for that. At least in Georgia, we do.
We are becoming more effective, we are becoming more efficient, but energy demand continues to grow.
There are a couple of big drivers. So one is this incredible surge in demand that we're seeing, not just from AI and data centers, but also from incredible amounts of domestic manufacturing, industrial uses for electrification.
Yeah, precisely. A lot of this demand from new customers, whether that's data centers or industrial users, the new technologies, new financing models, this is all opening up opportunity for nuclear energy to succeed.
But now we do have, again, the smaller modular reactors that also are water cooled, that are great for things like at retiring coal plant sites.
If we're going to see a lot of new nuclear plants being built, the nuclear industry needs to understand that those plants will not be selling electricity into your grandfather's electricity grid. There's going to be, anywhere in the world, a lot of wind power and a lot of solar power.
The door is open for nuclear, and it's ready. It's ready for us to build. It's ready for us to build large reactors. It's ready for us to build small reactors. It's ready for us to serve our communities in a way that's not being done right now. We have to take that opportunity.
Now, all of a sudden, all these different shapes and sizes of nuclear, they can do it whatever it is that you're looking for. Big, medium, small, steam, hydrogen, electricity, you name it, we got it.
A classic example of that is we're seeing X-Energy working with Dow Chemicals in order to produce heat for industrial processes. So there's a lot of examples of new emerging nuclear technology that can help us beyond just the power sector.
Like, if we don't deliver this time, I think it's gonna be so long before we can even get this opportunity again. So we say it's a resurgence, and the US needs to get back in the game, and I think some of European countries need to get back into it.
We're at the beginning of a resurgence, and we have to remember that we can't stop. Now that public opinion is shifting to the positive, now is the time to ramp it up. We really need to continue to work on public opinion, because public opinion paves the way for politics and policies that favor nuclear.
And we can't just be financing a first-of-a-kind reactor. We need to be financing the first nth-of-a-kind reactor.
The window is open now for nuclear energy to really show that it can step up and deliver to meet this demand, but it will close again.
I think this is the absolute best time to be in nuclear. And although we are beginning on our journey to tripling nuclear by 2050, 2050 actually isn't that far away.
I definitely think it's a good time to be in nuclear. Yep. I encourage any students that are considering nuclear, go into nuclear. People in the trades area that want to go into different areas, supporting nuclear construction or operation. I think it's a great field to be going into right now.